On this episode of ReLiterated, Jody and Mark are off to their grandparents' farm for the summer. It's going to be Grandma's chocolate chip pancakes, Grandpa's scary stories by the fire, and the great outdoors. But there's something off about the old place this year. Grandma's serving cornflakes, Grandpa's forgotten his stories, there's worms in the corn husks, and mysterious figures running around just out of sight. Is it an elaborate prank? Or is the creepy, superstitious farmhand telling the truth that the Scarecrow walks at midnight? Marky Mark's Goosebumps book of choice on ReLiterated, the podcast that's the cream of the crop. Nobody does it better, oh yeah. Welcome to ReLiterated, the lowbrow book club of grown-ass adults reading the children's books popular in the 1990s, but with 2020's hindsight. Fair warning, we use language too mature for kids, analysis too immature for literary scholars, and ignorance too profound to be inoffensive to everyone. We also talk about our books in depth, and that includes spoilers. So before you listen, if you're not familiar with the story, go ahead and read that story, then listen to us. Or, just listen to us because we're entertaining if you don't want to read a whole book. But they're Goosebumps. They're pretty short. My name's Andy.
I'm Harold.
And I'm Josh.
And welcome to our second friend/listener requested episode of the chapter. We're doing The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, number 20 in the Goosebumps series by our friend Ragtag Lindenberg Stein. This one's from 1994.
Ah, yes. I remember getting this book, and definitely I really wanted it because of the cover art.
It is one of the better cover arts.
I think this was a library read for me, so.
I actually, in the back of this book, have a sticker that identifies it as a gift book from the 1994 summer reading program at the Bay County Library System. And this one was mine. This was my prize for participating in the summer reading program in the summer of 94.
Nice.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, library summer reading programs are pretty fun if you like reading in the summer.
Right. I mean, I don't know. The summer is actually almost a better time to read because you can read outside.
That is true.
I read a lot in the summertime, especially if I have a hammock available. Oh man, nothing better than laying in the shade on a hammock reading a book. It's wonderful. I too participated in the summer reading program. Mine was at Pigeon, though, the Pigeon Library.
We sound like we're on NPR right now talking about this.
Well, it is a book podcast. So.
Fuck that noise.
Yeah. What the fuck?
This book was suggested to us by our friend Mark, aka Marky Mark, from the Matty Ice and Marky Mark podcast. And I just used the word Mark like so many times in one sentence, and we haven't even gotten into the story yet, where there's a character named Mark.
Ah, yes, the brother Mark.
Mark sends his regrets. He could not make it onto this show. He is actually currently recording an episode of his own show. They do it live on Monday nights.
Oh, that's right.
But I also promised that we would be merciless on our treatment of him for having missed our show. So, fuck you, Mark.
Josh and I can't be merciless because Josh was sick when he was here.
Yeah, I got the spins real bad. Like, I thought I was gonna either throw up or pass out or both. So all I could do was lay in bed for like 4 hours, and then I felt slightly better. So
yep. I
was in bad sorts when I was in Michigan. Man, it's a good trip, but and then I was sick for a good 2 months afterwards. I told my mom, I'm like, no more winter trips in Michigan. Fuck that. I'm going summer and spring. That's it. no more of this other stuff.
I prefer that anyways. We actually do stuff in the summer.
But then we don't get to like just lay in bed head to head.
Watching movies.
I mean, that's what we do anyway, so.
You can do that any time of year.
Right, exactly.
Or you can do that when you're camping because it's summer.
Yeah, and technology has come a long way since 1994 when this book was written.
But anyways,
yes.
No worries, Mark. We love you, and we will go on with the with your suggested book.
Yeah, we appreciate the pick because this is actually was one of my favorites, and while I didn't remember a thing about the book except for the cover art. it was fun enough to read.
I didn't remember this one either. I probably read it, but it was like not a memorable story, and I think I don't know. After reading it, it's still kind of hard to grab onto the details, but we'll get into why in just a little bit. But first, let's cover everyone's favorite segment, Steinwatch.
Good old Steinwatch. What's that old guy been up to?
Well, according to an article from harddrive.net, he's gotten himself a sweet little hot young thing. And by thing, I mean a monster blob.
So he's like Leo, but for monsters.
Yeah. So Leonardo DiCaprio's got his children that he likes to play with. And naturally, R.L. Stine cavorts with blob creatures.
I think it's funny that actually came up in the news. I was like, what? What?
That R.L. Stine is what was I read part of the article, but I guess I didn't fully get the grasp what was going on.
Well, according to harddrive.net, paparazzi photographers caught 79-year-old Goosebumps author R.L. Stine stepping out with a hot monster blob that sources reported is several decades younger than him.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I read.
Me and the blob are just having fun. No label, nothing serious. Yeah, she's a fan of my work, but our relationship is none of your business. I might even feature her in a story. Obviously, harddrive.net is a satire site.
Oh, I was like...
Wait, did we pull a fast one on Harold?
No.
No, obviously not.
Clearly, I was like, okay, what the fuck is this?
It's like, how many gummies have you had tonight, dude?
Right.
But in real world news, R.L. Stine recently contributed to the festivities at a centennial celebration for the Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's what R.L. Stine's been up to. He probably even took his blob friend to this celebration, this whatever he did at that museum extravaganza.
I would hope so. That sounds like they're having a good time. The blob thing.
Yeah, and we wish our friend Randy Lorbert Stein the best of luck with his new fling.
Yep. And I want to remind everybody that until we raise the age of blobs to like 21 or something, that stuff's gonna happen. So
let's hope that we don't have another Egon incident, though.
Egon,
remember with him in the slime?
Oh yeah.
Then again, how old was that slime?
The slime was older than him, I imagine.
Probably from Vigo's time, true. So.
Yep.
All right. So.
Yeah.
Egon fucked the slime, you guys. That's what we're talking about.
Egon the Ghostbuster fucked some.
I'm assuming
slime.
he used it as lube to jerk off with.
Oh, good point. Never even thought about that.
Right.
Or he just like put some in a jar and stuck his dick in it, and
that's kind of what I always thought would happen.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it'd feel like anything.
The movie was obviously very ambiguous.
Yeah.
It must have been like what PG, probably PG-13 by today's standards, but back then would have maybe gotten a PG rating.
Yeah, I don't know. I think everything's. I see so much PG-13 stuff. I rarely see PG. It's like G, PG-13.
Plus, there's weird rules that you have to follow to get the PG-13, so it's not even like they know that they're allowed one fuck, so they have to use it like at the perfect spot or just
allowed
not.
One
fuck.
Just one guy mutters it under his breath. Fuck. Damn it, we used it. Now we can't do it again.
If only we could record the scene again.
Too much footage. It's too expensive.
Yeah, too expensive.
For the record, Ghostbusters 2 is rated PG.
Oh.
Which, man, I remember when my parents took me to see it in the theaters. It's one of my earlier memories, and man, was I freaked out by like the painting of Vigo and and all the stuff that was going on. I think I may have actually, if I remember right, I had to leave the theater or like to step outside during the movie. I was weak. It was 89. I was 5.
I remember seeing it on video. We didn't go to the theater to see it. But yeah, I don't want to talk about the memory attached to the time I saw Ghostbusters 2 for the first time. But
Let's not go there.
Yeah, I only found out recently that in the last few years that Ghostbusters 2 was not well received and people didn't really like it. And that blew my mind because I was like, it was just as good as the first one. They're like Ghostbusters 1 and 2 are a great combo.
I don't know. I've seen the first one way more.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have too.
Yeah, like, oh, you're channel surfing. Oh, Ghostbusters is on, and it just stays on. Whereas Ghostbusters 2 is on. It's like, what part are we at Ghostbusters 2? Is it a part I want to watch? Nope. Okay, keep going.
I personally like the whole movie, so it's one of those things where it's like I don't like Tolkien. I like Ghostbusters 2 a hell of a lot, though.
I just like seeing on the internet people are like, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, my wife said I had to get a fine art painting for our child's bedroom. So I picked out this and it's the Vigo painting. It's like, yes, that's fantastic.
Right.
So speaking of things that have nothing to do with Ghostbusters,
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
It could give you goosebumps.
Ghostbusters could give you goosebumps. And speaking of goosebumps, we read a Goosebumps. So Harold, why don't you give us your Bob's Your Uncle summary of The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight?
All right. So Jody and her brother Mark go to their grandma and grandpa's farm, which is somewhere that Jody loves to go, but Mark isn't so keen on because he likes video games and watching TV. It's kind of boring there, but it's always great, and grandma and grandpa are always really fun. When they get there, they kind of notice that grandma and grandpa are acting a little strange, and there's a new hand named Stanley working on the farm, and Stanley has a son named Styx. Well, as they go, they see there's scarecrows everywhere around the farm, and Stanley keeps telling them about this book of superstitions that he has. And then, yeah, Jody keeps on seeing the scarecrows move at night, but they're not moving, but they are moving. And, the classic Goosebumps where every chapter ends with a gotcha that was a nothing. And so finally, after Jody and Mark get to notice that everything that's going on, and Stanley tells them that he can make the scarecrows walk, and then Styx admits that his dad had done this. And then the scarecrows start walking, and Mark's in control. And then, yeah.
Forgettable, right?
It's very forgettable. It's a forgettable story. Yeah. And then the scarecrows are gone because the spell gets taken off. Bob's your uncle.
Somehow the spell gets taken off.
I can't even remember what they did. Stanley reads the spell or does something to stop the curse. I can't even remember what it is now.
No, they just fucking burn the scarecrows.
Oh, they burn the scarecrows.
They just burn them.
How about a little fire, Scarecrow? But yeah. So like Stanley, he's what's a sensitive word to call what Stanley is. It's put in the book that Grandpa Kurt says he's like not playing with a full deck of cards or something.
Okay, so he's kind of messed up.
He seems like very whatever the big dumb one is of Mice and Men.
Okay, yeah. That's what I got.
Kind of mentally challenged big guy.
It's just intellectual disability. That's all it is now.
Intellectual disability, yeah. But he has a son, Styx, who is more of a normal person, or more of a what's the word? Neurotypical.
Yeah.
Person.
The way I was thinking of it in my head, not because of pop culture, was Stanley is like Forrest, and Styx is like Forrest's son.
Okay.
Because there's nothing wrong with Forrest's kid, but Forrest had an intellectual disability.
Right. And
you guys are tearing this apart. I mean, he said that he wasn't playing with a full deck of cards. I think it's okay. We'll be all right.
Well, no, we're trying to be sensitive because we live in the time period that we live now. We're not from the early. Well, I mean, we lived in the early 90s.
We're from 1994. This existed. Hey, folks. Back then, people would say he's not playing with a full deck of cards, and they meant that he had an intellectual disability.
Yes.
There.
Okay.
My God, I will bet that all the people listen to the comedy podcast about books is gonna be like, I'm really glad they cleared that fucking thing up.
Hey, we had to address it somehow, okay?
Jesus.
Okay, so Stanley is basically Forrest Gump. It even says that he has like the buzz cut, like flat top or whatever with dark hair or whatever. He's essentially Forrest Gump, just maybe like
Oh, so now they all look
a little
the
bit
same?
bigger. He works on a farm. Yeah, they all have buzz
cuts?
Yep.
Great.
And but he has this book, they don't say where he got it from, is superstition book that he's apparently used the book to recite some incantation that brought these scarecrows back to life, or not back to life, but animated these scarecrows. And like in return for ending the curse with his book, he's making Jody and Mark's grandparents
treat him kindly. Yes.
not laugh at him and only do things that he likes, or else he'll bring the curse back and make the scarecrows walk again. Which it's not really clear what the scarecrows want to do. They just kind of approach people and
thank you. I was
they
the
try
whole
to get
time,
to them. What's at stake here, right?
Right. So like I almost like my brain was shutting off while I was reading this book. I would read like pages and I'd have to go back. And then I'd be like, I'm not going back again. You know?
Right. Most of this book is Jody like seeing something moving and thinking that it's either a scarecrow or it's Styx trying to mess with them and scare them. But it only really happens once in the book, where there's a jump scare at the end of the chapter, and oh haha, it was just some like someone playing a prank on, like a stupid little prank on it. Like only once it turned out to be like the introduction of the character of Styx, where he made a scarecrow like paw at Jody a little bit and made her jump. Mm-hmm. But that was the only thing where it was like the typical, it was one of the other kids jumping at him trying to scare him or whatever.
When Grandma was reaching out, her hand was straw, and
oh, yeah, it turns out she was holding a broom.
And Jody's just not playing with a full deck of cards, you know?
Jody's not playing with a full deck of cards.
Yeah. And then the other time when she saw that happen, she was just dreaming.
Yep.
I was like, really? Really, Stein?
Yeah, she had
dreaming.
She had like a two chapter long nightmare where like her grandparents were turned into scarecrows and were like climbing through the windows or like at her door.
Yeah, she had a big fear of the scarecrows for not much of a reason, except for Stanley muttering stuff like the scarecrows walk at midnight and I made them walk. You know, I guess if you're a kid, maybe you start looking out and you see the scarecrows, and plus they keep putting up more and more scarecrows. By the way, this was a train wreck of Bob's Your Uncle. That Scarecrow walks at midnight.
Oh, I thought that was over for a while now. Bob's Your Uncle.
I didn't say Bob's Your Uncle.
This is the cleanup of Bob's Your Uncle.
Yeah, oh my God, man. Like seriously, I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, but wait, I want to include. No, that led to nothing. Like it was just like everything. There was so much nothing.
So Stanley is just a super superstitious simpleton, I guess.
Jeez.
Well, I'm not gonna use the slur. But he's really superstitious, and he's being very ominous about having made the scarecrows walk. And he keeps repeating that either the scarecrow walks at midnight, or I've seen the scarecrows walk. I can make the scarecrows walk.
He did say the scarecrows walk at midnight, and I've made the scarecrows walk.
Yes,
he said both those. I remember that.
Right. However, I don't think it was ever midnight when they actually were walking.
Well, no.
It was like sometime at night. But anyways, not sure what my point is, but...
I think your point is, this wasn't a very good story.
It wasn't. Great cover art.
Great cover art.
No, it was fairly creepy in that, like, one of the things that creeps me out the most personally is, like, things that look like they could move but aren't supposed to, and then they do, like, move at you in a threatening way or something. Like, statues or mannequins at like, a museum where they're...
Yeah.
Or, like, wax figures, like, suddenly come into life and
So you're talking about human-shaped ones.
Human-shaped figures.
Then that's the uncanny valley, isn't that what the term is?
Not an uncanny valley.
No, he's saying the idea of
different.
those things coming alive and attacking.
Yeah, like animating statues.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not uncanny valley necessarily. That's just the idea of something like, okay, even if it was a lion statue, it would bother you, correct?
No, well, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
If it was a realistic looking lion, or if it was like a stuffed lion, not like a stuffed toy lion, but like a real lion that was taxidermied, and
what if it was a wax lion?
A wax lion doesn't matter what it's made of. If it looks like it's supposed to look like the real thing, like it would really creep me out if it like started moving, or like I have this weird expectation of it to start moving and like jump out, whatever.
It won't, Andy.
I know. I mean, my head knows that, but
okay. I'm just
I don't know what the phobia. I don't know what the phobia is called, but I have it. And it's not Uncanny Valley.
Statues coming to life.
No, Uncanny Valley is where you try to like recreate the human face or motions or movements or something, and you get close. You get close enough to where it looks pretty realistic, but there's just that little bit of something missing to like really fool your brain into accepting that it's human. Like with the reanimated Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, or like every person in the Polar Express.
It's called automatonophobia.
Interesting.
Automatonophobia.
Automatonophobia. Okay.
And I mean, that's not gonna get me to say it.
It's it's a fear of human-like figures. That's a fear of human-like figures. So maybe it's more because you're more specifically talking about the human-like figures than a lion. More specifically,
like human figures springing to life when they're not supposed to. Like a suit of armor. Like if it looks like there could be a person in there and like it just starts jumping around, that would like seriously freak me out.
I mean, it should. I want to tell you, you're not weird. It's weird that you think about it a lot, but it's not weird to be afraid of it if it happens. I would suggest running.
Yeah, I feel that's rational. That's a rational fear.
It's a pretty rational fear.
Unlike Harold's fear of sharks, your fear somewhat rational.
Yep, you say that until the first attack happens in Lake Huron.
Well, we did learn that bull sharks can go in fresh water, so...
Mm-hmm. Suddenly it's a little more eerie to be in a lake.
Oh, here we go with the lake puns.
And it all comes back to it.
To a place that happened before the listeners started listening.
Right?
Oh, Mitch. Must be Mitch again.
Yep. Shitty internet jokes. You're welcome.
Those are shitty inside jokes.
Yeah.
So, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Mark's favorite Goosebumps
I did
book.
also have trouble reading this, so I sat down and I read, I think, the first 3 chapters, and I was like, I don't have patience to read this. I'm going to listen to it. So then I turned it on the audiobook, and then I ended up putting it up to 2 speed. Then I fell asleep. Because again, not much happens. Woke up at the end, read through to see what happened during the story, and I was like, "Oh goodness, really?" So yeah, it's about the same for me as you guys.
Like I say, I mean, really, the Bob's your uncle is they go to the farm, they meet meet these people, stuff happens. There you go. That's it.
I think it's a little bit more involved than that.
Nope. Scarecrows get burned. That's what happens.
Scarecrows get burned.
That's the thing. Scarecrows aren't scary to me.
Automatonophobia, the end.
Yep.
Yeah, if you have that, maybe. But yeah, scarecrows don't scare me. They have, I don't know, they don't bother me whatsoever. So I guess I'm not scared of them.
If it was Jeepers Creepers, scare ya.
Nah.
Yeah.
And that thing's like a weird gargoyle thing.
Yeah, right. We just watched that the other night, and that has a whole scene at Jeepers Creepers 2. It starts with the scarecrows in the field, The kid goes out there. You ever seen that, Andy?
Oh man, I saw Jeepers Creepers, the first one, a really long ass time ago.
Okay. Yeah, the second one starts with a bunch of scarecrows in the field. One of the scarecrows is the creeper, and it gets a kid. But so I mean, relevant to the story, only better because it's something actually scary happened.
The scarecrow actually does something.
Yeah.
Like this whole book.
Oh, he kills a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like the horror here is wondering whether the scarecrows are moving or not.
Yep.
Yeah, that
is creepy.
When you're a kid, that's scary as hell.
There was a good amount of suspense, and I think that was handled pretty well. But
For sure.
as far as like things happening, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot.
Nope.
Towards the end, because Jody was so certain that it was Styx dressing up as a scarecrow or manipulating the scarecrows somehow to freak them out, they were going to they did dress Mark up as a scarecrow,
Yep.
and we're going to get the jump on him. But how did that turn out?
Mark, as a scarecrow, was able to control the other scarecrows.
Alive scarecrows, because Stanley could no longer control them.
Yep.
Right.
And then he pulled his head off.
Scarecrows. Yeah, the scarecrows thought Mark was one of them and started imitating him, like raising their arms when he raised his arms. And
Yep.
Jody tried to get Mark to kill them all by taking his scarecrow head off, and they all did, but they all kept moving and stopped responding to any commands or responding to Mark in any way.
Right, because he removed the disguise. Totally a kid. No, you walked them into the water.
Yeah, that was probably the thing to do. But I guess...
Goodbye, Mark. Thank you, Mark. As he drowns himself to... the scarecrows turn around and walk right back out.
Your sacrifice will be honored by future generations.
Fire. Who uses fire for scarecrows?
Fire for scarecrows.
I do feel bad for that kid though, because man, have you guys ever had straw or hay in your shirt for whatever reason?
I mean, yeah, I grew up around some farmy stuff.
It's just like hell. That sucks.
That's not so bad.
I mean, I get that just from
covered in it though.
Lying in the grass for a time.
Maybe I'm allergic to it. Maybe
I'm not.
I hate it.
I don't have very many allergies, if I have any, so I'm sure that it's not as itchy, or at least I didn't before. I might now, but when I was a kid, like, we used to play in the horse barn all the time. We'd throw each other in it and wrestle in it and stuff. So
yeah, that's the hay segment.
Yeah.
Hey.
Straw, whatever, barley.
So yeah,
I find it funny that the only reason Stanley was able to find out about this, that he had this spell book, is that he couldn't read, like, he had to read aloud. That was the only way he could read, was by reading aloud.
Okay.
And that is how he was able to find out about summoning this thing. But if the person has a book that you know has spells in it that work, wouldn't you take it away from a person who can't read it silently?
That would have been the smart thing to do.
For sure.
Because then at the end, a bear comes to life? Is that what starts moving?
Their grandpa had a taxidermied bear that he had killed on a hunt years ago.
So that family gets massacred by a bear.
Maybe. I mean, it's left open-ended, but the bear was just starting to reanimate with Jody alone with it in the room.
Right, it's like a churro too, can't imagine.
But yeah, Stanley was obsessed over superstitions and, you know, what were signs of bad luck or good luck or whatever, and he couldn't not read silently. He also said he liked reading the dictionary a lot. Just, you know, swap out a dictionary for his superstition book.
That doesn't sound like somebody who's not playing with a full deck of cards. Sounds like somebody who's doing plenty of thinking. If they like to read the dictionary, want to know more words, that makes...
Now, have you guys ever read the book Lullaby by Chuck, I can't pronounce his last name, Halnick, I believe?
Mm-mm.
The guy that wrote Fight Club?
No.
He has this book called Lullaby. Highly recommend. Very, very good. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if these two things are connected. But alas, they are not. But I was thinking maybe, just maybe, very far-fetched, is like the same book of superstitions that Stanley has is the same book that's in the same spell book that's in Lullaby. And I was like, ooh, that would be fun. But then I quick reread it and I was like, oh, no, they're not connected in any way. This sucks.
The book of superstitions book.
It's kind of weird for a book like that to have like working spells in it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what's weird? When I went to school down in Heartland, and in the library, there was a book called Black and White Magic, and it was a bunch of spells in this book. It was in the library. I checked it out a number of times. I would sit there and read it, like how to become a werewolf. And like the book said that what you got to do is you got to take a belt that you've made of human skin and you have to fucking draw a pentagram on the ground and like put on the belt and do some other things and you could become a werewolf, right? And I was in 5th grade and I got this from a library. The school library at the elementary school.
An elementary school library had a spell book involving making belts out of human flesh.
Yeah, dude. It was called Black and White Magic. The book was called Black and White Magic. It was at Heartland, and I was in 5th grade in Heartland. I only went there for 1 year.
Huh. This explains so much.
It's weird, isn't it? Isn't that weird? Yeah, I found that book, like, I was like, what? Because my mom was all magic and crystals and astrology, you know what I mean? Like she was all into everything like that. So like I was into it. So like I found that book. I'm like, this is fucking great. I never tried any of the spells. Most of them seemed illegal.
That's crazy because in some of the urban fiction that I read, that's in one of the stories, there's a pack of werewolves, and that's how they do it is by having these belts. So that's very, very interesting. Never knew that.
Yep. Yeah, that's the way you turn yourself into a werewolf, apparently.
Based in fact?
Fact, dude. It's as real as the Bible.
This is true.
A bunch of people came together and decided that yes, belts are the way to lycanthropy.
There you are.
Yep, Bob's your uncle. A belief is formed.
Bob's your uncle. You're a lycanthrope. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So scarecrows.
Yeah, scarecrows. Not like werewolves at all.
Not like werewolves at all. No, they were moving in the day. They were moving at the night. Nobody knows what they wanted. Nobody waited around to find out what they wanted. They just burned the suckers, and Stanley thought he could control them.
Maybe that's why I didn't like it. The resolution was just so quick and unfulfilling because we don't know what they wanted.
There wasn't really a resolution though, because clearly it's not just scarecrows that can come to life.
That's true. The family gets eaten by a bear.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's stuffed, so it probably didn't eat them. It just ravaged their bodies.
Just mauled them.
I thought we were going to have an ending where we discovered that the scarecrows wanted something, or they could be appeased somehow, or something. Just like we had the snowmen in Beware the Snowman. Like they wanted something, and they wanted to get out of the cold. They're like, it's cold. Can we go home now? But we didn't get that with the scarecrows. We just had a bunch of silent, stalking bundles of hay and clothing that approached people.
Wow, I think that other book was better than this one, and that book sucked.
You think Beware the Snowman is
Beware the Snowman might be better than this book.
No.
Let's not get crazy.
Let's
here.
not be. Yeah, come on.
You know what?
Pull it back just a little bit.
Here's what we'll do. We'll rank it. We'll rank them at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't have all of them listed out right this moment. We do have. I got
a list of the ones we've done so far. I got a list going. Yeah.
All written out? Okay, cool.
Yeah. We want to do this now, or we want to finish up with...
Let's finish it. And that way we can just riff on shit.
Yeah. Are we not finished? I thought that we came to a totally...
Oh, yeah. We could come to
we came to a totally, completely normal resolution with that book.
I think I had something else
Go ahead.
to say. I had something to say about Mark, and that is that I actually was a kid like Mark. He went to his grandparents' house and he came prepared with like a backpack full of music and his Game Boy and a whole bunch of Game Boy cartridges. And I'm like, yeah, this kid was me. Their parents sent them to their grandparents' farm to experience the great outdoors and do whatever while they got a month to themselves to have sex or something. But all Mark wanted to do was just like chill out on the hammock in the covered back porch and play Game Boy and listen to music, and I vibed with that.
Yeah, I go either way on it. I like doing both. I do like my video games. But when I was at my grandparents' house, we definitely were playing video games in the basement. They had a Nintendo because if we went outside, my grandparents would just be like, pick up the sticks. I didn't want to pick up the sticks, so we stayed down playing video games. They didn't understand the colors on the screen, so they stayed upstairs.
Yeah, we brought our own Nintendos.
Yeah.
When we went to my grandparents.
They had a Nintendo. I think, thinking back, they specifically probably had a Nintendo so that when we came over, we would be completely entertained. Because we had the gun and everything. We had the gun, couple controllers, bunch of games.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
My grandma was actually an avid Game Boy player. Like, she played a lot of the puzzle games and like the casino games and stuff. But she loved her Game Boy. I think she was actually buried with her Game Boy. It was like there was a few of her possessions in her casket at her funeral, and one of them was her little Game Boy. What model was it? I don't know if it was a Game Boy Color or Advance.
That's cool though. I mean,
I don't know, but yeah.
So she understood that playing a game doesn't make you childish.
Yeah, you gotta have something to do while you're enjoying the great outdoors,
right?
She and my grandpa went camping a lot in their RV, and she had her Game Boy more often than not. Right? So yeah,
riding in the car. I mean,
yeah, those car rides get pretty long.
Yep, hell yeah.
I had
Scarecrows.
Slightly different. Hey, I had a slightly different experience, whereas we didn't have a Nintendo at home. We only had it at my grandparents' house, so we had to go to my grandma's house to play Nintendo.
I think that's literally the experience I just told you I had.
So you didn't have one at home? You didn't have a system at home?
Not till later.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have one till... Remember when I bought my PS2? Yeah, that was my first system that was mine.
Okay, that's okay. So from that point, our experience is different, but otherwise, our experience up to that point in our lives is exactly the same.
Whew, I was starting to think you guys are the same person.
Yeah.
My grandma still has our Super Nintendo, and she has Super Solitaire. That is the only game she has, but she still plays it occasionally.
So yeah, grandparents actually being gamers. Nice.
Oh yeah, my grandpa whooped my ass in Wii bowling. He was very proud.
Yeah, I don't think my grandpa could be bothered, but grandma liked her Game Boy anyways.
So we're gonna rank these books.
Yeah. So what we're going to do when we cover Goosebumps is we're going to slide it into our ranking list wherever we see fit. And we've got a few titles to catch up, but only a handful. So how about we start with Dead House? Welcome to Dead House. And obviously that's going to be the first and last on the ranking list.
I really liked it.
Yeah,
it's still good.
Yeah, I would say that honestly, Welcome to Dead House is my favorite Goosebumps book so far. We've done Welcome to Dead House,
and then One Day at Horrorland. Let's take this.
One
by one. One Day at Horrorland. Where is it in regards to Welcome to Dead House?
For me, it's number 2.
Yeah, it'd be number 2. It's right up there. It'd be hard to say one or the other, but I had a lot of fun with Welcome to Dead House.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Horrorland is a really good Goosebumps story, but it has a really weird ending.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know if I was satisfied with that weird ending, but the rest of the story was pretty solid. Of going from horror to horror at a amusement park of doom,
right? Not realizing it at first.
Yeah, that was a fun premise.
Yep.
All right, so Welcome to Dead House number 1, Horrorland number 2, My Hairiest Adventure.
See, I thought it was bad, but then the last 2 were real bad. So,
right.
But taking this on a 1-by-1 basis, we'll put this under Horrorland, My Hairiest Adventure, and that's subject to change as to what our least favorite one is. Now,
see, it's hard.
Next is Beware the Snowman. This is going to be where it gets challenging.
Beware the Snowman is the worst for me.
I like the ending though. Like the monster's satisfying, the twists are somewhat satisfying. And so like, yes, nothing happens that entire book until the end, but then the end is actually fun. Whereas this book, nothing happens and then they burn them and more nothing happens.
Which one are you talking about where nothing happens?
Yeah, but nothing happens in both of them. So listen.
I guess I
think-
just like the monster better in The Snowman.
Now I'm going to go back and listen to the Snowman one to hear what your thoughts were at that time.
Oh, I'm sure I hated it.
And if it's good enough, I would be like, Andy, you need to put Josh's thoughts from back
Yes.
then in it.
Okay, so the premise of Beware the Snowman involved like separated parents. One was like a sorcerer or something.
They were both sorcerers.
They were both sorcerers. There was like some magical lineage. There was a big monster that made the snowman. I don't remember it very well.
No, the sorcerers created the snowman, but the snowman ended up being evil, and so then they trapped it in the ice because it's not actually a snowman; it's a demon. or
Yeah,
some
I thought
shit.
it was a demon and they turned it into a snowman.
Yeah,
a
that's
demon
it.
that
Yeah,
they
it's a
turned
demon
into a
that they
s-
turned
and
into a snowman.
So what did all the little snowmen have to do that was in front of like every house
It was just to appease it. It was
Yeah.
just
to appease?
so that they wouldn't. Yeah, basically, it was just to appease it.
okay.
by
It
making
was like
an
it was a
army.
superstition thing. If Stanley was in that town, he would be making the snowman.
Now let's hold it up to a story where this kid is in this Eric Clapton cover band, and is growing mysterious hair, and it turns out he was a dog the whole time.
See, crazy twist. I like crazy
it's-
twist. That's why it's like third is fine because it's you know
I
nothing, but
remember,
then at the end,
yeah.
You think that's a more fun twist than being related to sorcerers?
yeah, because you
And-
don't see. You think, oh, okay, so this. You don't think that it was a dog turned into a kid. You think, oh, maybe something happened where it's a kid, you know, something else. But no, I like the twist better in that.
Harold, your thoughts?
I feel like, yes, all of the snowman shit came at the end, the very end of the book. It was all like, oh, sorcerer family. And by the way, this guy's a demon. We turned him into a snowman. You know, like, oh, okay. Whereas
Uh-huh.
My Harriest Adventure, like all through it, he kept having the, you know, his hair started growing. He didn't understand. And then all of a sudden he's a dog. But you start catching on to it later, you know, oh, geez, he had the sweat gland problem. I remember My Harriest Adventure a lot better than I remember Beware the Snowman.
Okay.
I remember the end of Beware the Snowman, and what I mainly remember is that the demon got turned into a snowman, and I was able to pick that one out and sound like I knew what I was talking about.
So we're saying My Harriest Adventure is a better story than Beware the Snowman.
Yes.
Yes.
Beware, the Snowman is now number 4 in our list
For now.
for now. And now, where do we put this current episode, this current Goosebumps story? The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. How's it compare?
Said it before, last. I'm not scared of scarecrows. They don't scare me. I'm not a crow. And apparently crows aren't scared of me either, according to Jeepers Creepers.
If it was nighttime and you were walking and you looked over and there were a bunch of figures standing in a field next to you, you might be a little bit freaked out.
Yeah, but with fight or flight, I can run.
Sure,
So
sure.
I'll be
But I'm
alright.
saying that would be creepier than walking down the street and seeing snowmen in front of everybody's yard.
I don't know if there's a gnarly, the same snowman with the gnarly scar in everyone's yard. I'd be kind of like, what the hell's going on here? I would be
But-
kind of freaked out just because it's all identical. I'm like, what's going on?
But none of them were spotted moving or anything. It's just everyone had the same snowman
Yep.
for some reason. And all throughout the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, like she's seeing scarecrows moving
Mm-hmm.
and wondering whether they're really alive or whether it's Styx playing jokes on her.
Right.
But if I remember correctly, she thought one of them did move. And so that was one of the cliffhangers in that story because the snowman was alive. He was able to come down off the mountain if he needed to. He was trapped, but they all thought he could come down from the mountain if he needed to.
All of a sudden, Josh is an expert on Beware the Snowman. I really can't wait to re-listen to that one again. I'm telling
I'm
you.
sure I shat all over it because I did not like it. But when you couldn't put it in comparison to, well, you got a turd sandwich or a shit sandwich right now. So which one do you want? Do you want do you want one with bacon or one without? Well, I guess I'll take the one with bacon.
In my opinion, I think Scarecrow Walks at Midnight did a better job at being creepy and suspenseful throughout than Beware the Snowman. they just like Beware the Snowman. There was like those two kids that were kind of ominous, who like you could tell they knew what was going on, but they didn't want to tell the main protagonist, whose name escapes me. But I don't know, I think it was done better in Scarecrow, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought so as well. So that's
being outvoted sucks.
2 out of 3. We're putting that one number 4.
Is Scarecrow better than My Hairiest Adventure?
No, because again, I just listened to and read Scarecrow Walks at Midnight and was unable to do a cohesive Bob's Your Uncle on it. Whereas I remember My Hairiest Adventure pretty well.
I do too. And I think it was pretty fun because we got to see like the kids in their school life, their band life, and
right.
There was actually other kids to like, I don't know, bounce the story off of, you know. Here it was just Jody and her brother and the weird kid and the really weird farmhand and their grandparents who were acting different than they were used to.
Right.
And that would be pretty weird too, to like all of a sudden your relatives are acting very weird and like not doing the things that you used to love them doing.
Right. Yeah, because they were only doing what Stanley wanted. And
because they had to appease him.
Yep, and it showed. So yeah, I thought Scarecrow did better job with all that than Beware the Snowman.
Beware the Snowman. Okay.
Yep.
But not quite as good as My Hairiest Adventure.
Not quite as good.
Okay. Is that something you can live with, Josh?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right. So that means our current ranking is Welcome to Dead House is our favorite, and Beware the Snowman is bringing up the rear for worst one so far. And the current one, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, ranking at number 4 out of 5.
It's going to be hard to beat Dead House because that was our first one.
It really is.
And it's so well written.
It is a good one.
It is. Because, I mean, it was his first foray.
Yeah. It set the mold, or it set the format.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe our next Goosebumps book will surpass it. We'll see.
We'll see.
You know, books won't ever surpass it? Michigan Chillers. Those books suck. Yeah, no matter how bad the Scarecrow is, it's still fucking better than not bionic bats.
The unbionic bats of Bay City.
Harold, you should read it and do your own because it was bad.
Hey, you should read this book. It was bad.
It was not good.
That's more of a recommendation that would come from me, really.
Right. Read this bad book. It's terrible.
I like reading bad books.
I mean, you get paid for it sometimes. So.
Right. But it's more fun than reading a mediocre book.
Right.
Just a big ol' nothing. Anyways, that's our Goosebumps ranking segment, which we might come up with a name for because I think we're going to keep this up.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So, next up on ReLiterated, we're going to invite comedian Trip Hazard onto the show.
Yeah.
For some sideways stories from Wayside School by Louis Satcher. I promise I'll figure out how to pronounce it by the next episode. Whether it's
Trust
Louis
me,
or Louis
I won't even
whatever.
try. And it will be bad.
The author of Holes. But yeah, sideways stories from Wayside School will be next up on ReLiterated.
Nice. I'm excited for that one.
I've never read it, so I'm also excited. It was like in that weird cusp where they changed books between the 2 years of our knowledge. So
yeah, this is one of my favorites from back in the day, so I'm excited to read this one too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I don't remember anything about it, but I remember I liked it.
I've read it to Xander within the past couple of years, so I have read it somewhat recently, but I look forward to reading it all over again.
Did you guys ever read any of the Plant That Ate Dirty Socks books?
No, I can't say that I have.
Okay.
No. So anyways, if that sounds good to you, read the book along for yourself and join us next time on ReLiterated. Until then, give a shit, read some lit.
Bob's your uncle, that's ReLiterated.
thanks, everybody.
The Scarecrow walks at midnight.
This has been ReLiterated, a production of the Chocolate Milk Friends and part of the 989 Podcast Network. If you enjoy our show, please consider giving us support by subscribing, recommending us to your book reading, podcast listening, 90s nostalgic friends, and most importantly, rating and reviewing us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible Podcasts, and Spotify. Did I mention we really want some Spotify ratings right now? Your ratings and reviews go a long way towards getting us in the ears of new listeners. You're also invited to join the growing ReLiterated community on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you really want to get nuts, we have a Discord too. So Bing us, and join us in this nonsense. If you have a book suggestion for a future episode or have questions for us, send us an email at reliterated@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Oh, I can tell you about my fun pun that I had on the internet today. I was very happy with it. People were talking about the Great Lakes, and somebody said that's a superior joke. And then somebody made a Huron joke, and then I was like, lake puns must be Michigan. I'm hilarious.
Here on the east side, we don't make jokes like that.
Must be Michigan.
Well, I am now a West Coast surfer dude, right? Is that how that works? Even though I'm like hours and hours and hours away from LA and surfing.
Good. You don't want to be by the sharks.
I'm still trying to figure out the joke.
What joke?
I'm still trying to figure out the pun.
Which one?
Michigan.
Michigan, lake puns.
Who's like Mitch?
Instead of Michigan, Lake
Yeah,
Michigan.
but who's Mitch? How is
Who's
it a pun?
Mitch?
There's no person no, it just Michigan sounds like Michigan. That's the closest I could get.
You just said Michigan in a weird way.
Are you not getting my pun?
No.
We're not.
Yeah.
And then I followed that bad pun with here on the east side, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's Mitch? That's my problem.
Lake puns must be Michigan.
But
As in the person making the puns is named Mitch.
okay,
And therefore-
are Mitches known for that?
No, it was just a shitty joke that I put on the internet, and I was proud of
Okay.
it. That's all.
We just wanted you to say that.
Oh, I said it was a shitty joke at the beginning, but I was still proud of it.
We wanted you to reiterate it.
Nice. Dick.
Well, I thought this book was very eerie.